I'd like to introduce Ted Twelverven, CEO and founder of Engage Process. Ted, would you like to share your screen? I'm going to disappear now as well, but I will be here.
I'm going to share my screen. Thank you and good morning, everybody. Although it's afternoon here already. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, Rachel, thank you very much. I'll just give you a quick introduction. We are very honored to be participating here and supporting Somerset Council. I just wanted to introduce a couple of quick slides for those who do not know us yet or know us a little bit, or a lot of you already are using Engage Process. With Engage Process, I'll do a quick introduction, and hopefully that only takes 5 minutes. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand, and I think Nick Hill will then coordinate the questions. We are very happy that we are present in the UK. We now have more than 80 customers in the UK. And what I find interesting of this slide is that there's often a different reason why the customer started working more with process management and allowed us to support that. And it is the different topics that is often very intriguing for process management. What we do see with many of our customers before they start with the platform is that they use Post-it notes, they use Excel to do measurements, they retype the process into a diagram in Visio or another one and print it to PDF, send it by email to the subject matter experts who put it in their handbook, and again with email send a message back that they're looking for an improvement. And our goal is to support all of that from a single platform for mapping, discussion, exploring, sharing, and feedback. Now, with that, when we first positioned our platform, Gartner looked at it and said, well, they said we are not a BPM tool. And BPM tools are often that more complicated, technical, that the subject matter experts use brown paper, PowerPoint, Visio, and we from Engage Process try to bridge that gap. And for that, we have got a bunch of specific features that allow you to get the subject matter experts much more involved in the process discussion. Gartner calls us a process exploration platform. Intuitive icons. Process mapping is done automatically. It's only one screen, so you can do interactive workshops, even remote. For those that like to deal with data, there we have tables in which you can manage that and show and hide a lot of detail in the process maps, but it's always hidden until you want to see it. And with Switch View, we create swim lanes to look at process maps from many different angles. And we do run the calculations within the processes. And it's especially powerful when you compare an as-is with a to-be. And other features like customer value added. And we immediately send the process maps to the handbook. So you instantly create a quality manual, the instructions manual, so nobody goes home empty-handed, and there's a feedback function. Well, if you are questioning about these features and functions and you want to have a demo, please don't hesitate to contact our UK team, Lawrence Allen, our newly assigned director for the UK this year. And of course, Dean Stratton and Vinola Wong also in our London office. And of course, Andy Sanford of We Are Lean and Agile, who is in this meeting as well, who is a well-respected reseller and partner of ours in the UK. Now, what we see happening, and that is truly a change happening for process management, is that process management is becoming more the central backbone for many organizations in such a way that if there is a change in the laws, that you, through the process management, then reflect that on other goals and topics in your organization. The central role of process management is very, very normal in manufacturing, in trade and logistics, but is more difficult in more administrative organizations. And by putting process management in the center, it gives you a couple of very important benefits. All different projects will stay up to date when there are changes happening if you put the processes in the center, in the middle. And process management allows you to give the detail of the processes, especially the detail of the exceptions in the processes, to the subject matter experts if and when that is needed. And process management will bring you a synergy between different projects. And that is one that also Edinburgh and many councils in the UK gave a business case on. How process management allows your colleagues, your employees, to truly be involved in IT projects, etc. Yeah. And maybe the fifth point here, and I have a special slide on that. There's a lot of things happening at the moment in councils, different laws, LGR, all different kind of projects, robotics projects, cost savings projects, customer satisfaction projects, AI projects these days, and everybody seems to be doing something with AI. And process management, the new services, improved services, process management can help you to create an overview of that. And from that overview, start driving these changes in a controlled manner instead of only independent projects. Now, with that, we have expertise on how to improve processes, how to get that overview, but how and where do you start and what is your journey? And that is what I see, what Rachael has been showing in a recent local GovCamp organized by Nick Hill. And Rachael, I'd love to introduce you, your target operating model, service design and process mapping from a structured model. And if there's no questions, I'd like to hand over to you, Rachael. I'll stop sharing my screen, and I think you're going to share your own screen then.
Yes, I will do. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Do we want to, whilst I'm doing that, do we want to pause if anyone's got any questions for Ted?
And otherwise, I'll stay around and questions can be answered later on. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Ted. Now over to you, Rachael.
Okay, lovely. Let me just get to the right screen a second. Lovely. Wow. Thank you to everyone that's here as well, that's come to listen to me. It's very humbling. I'm very grateful that everyone wants to hear our journey in Somerset at the moment. And essentially, I'll start by saying we don't have all the answers. So I'm more than happy to share my journey as a service design professional through LGR. And hopefully some of that comes with some experience and potential learnings. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you on the call are at varying levels. I think looking at some of the attendees, you may already have gone through LGR, you might be about to. So hopefully some of this will be useful. Somerset also wants to be friends. So if we aren't already connected on LinkedIn, then please do find me afterwards if you want to talk about any of this more. And I'd love to do that. So who am I? So my name is Rachael Dixon. I am the Service Design and Change Lead for Somerset Council, and I previously led on service design and process redesign at Sedgemoor District Council prior to vesting day. So we've been using Engage Process for quite a while now. We use that at Sedgemoor very successfully to redesign our services as part of a digital program that was aimed at improving customer journeys. So in Sedgemoor, what we wanted to do was create what we called a digital Sedgemoor. So we weren't just digitizing internal, but we were also looking at improving digital journeys for the residents and the place, as well as digital inclusion and skills and all of those wonderful things. Whilst there, we had something called the Process Design Manual, which essentially laid out how to do process redesign from the very beginning stages of interacting with a service through to fruition, and what to do when your new processes are live, and to actually embed them into continuous improvement as well. So now I am leading on service design at Somerset, and my happy place is user-driven change and co-design, so co-designing with users. So if we have a look at the process design manual quickly, because it gives a bit of context to what we're doing now. So as I said, the point of this was it's a bit of a Bible. I never recommend to read it front to back, but this is something that was the brainchild of my old colleague Paul Davidson, who some of you may know, and I was brought on board to deliver processes and the process redesign using that manual. So I then worked with Paul to improve and add as we learnt more in a very iterative process. And the point of it was that we wanted to run multiple redesign projects at once with minimal oversight. We wanted to make sure that we were actually delivering the core principles and goals of Sedgemoor, maximise the use of capabilities that we had, align benefits management, benefits capture. All of those wonderful things were possible with our process redesign approach and the tool that we used in Engage Process. But then LGR happened. So getting comfortable with uncertainty is what I say there. And I don't want to frighten anyone that's not gone through it yet, but it is a challenging road to go down, especially for service design. And I think the reason I say that is because we know that there is tons of work to do in terms of service design when you're bringing multiple teams, multiple councils, multiple processes together. But it's not always the right place and time, and people are going through a lot personally as well. It's a really challenging journey. So we as individuals can be really keen to plough ahead, and I was definitely in the space of, I can help here, but is the organisation ready? So what I mean by that is, so me personally, I returned from maternity leave after having my son in October 2022, and when I returned at that point, it was a different world. So the programme that I've just explained to you had already come to an end because of vesting day was coming up fast in the April of 2023. So everything had been ended so that the organisations at that point could pull together to make sure that vesting day went smoothly, and it was all about kind of making that safe and legal journey and creating one organisation. So for me as an individual, I came back thinking, right, who do I speak to? I want to be in that zone. I want to be in the top of the programme. Who's the programme manager? I knew none of those things. I was just coming in because I knew that there was going to be so much work that we could do. But as I said, at that point, understandably, the organisation was just, we have to get to one organisation. So again, if there is time and opportunity, I definitely think there's more that you can do to make sure that some core services are redesigned before vesting day, but it's very much an individual scenario thing. You know your organisations and how it feels at that moment. So we reached vesting day, and I've still been jumping up and down saying, hi, we've got process redesign we can do, and we've got all these skills, and we very quickly hit financial emergency. So that brought its own challenges, and essentially we had to go into almost like a command and control situation, because we everything then got thrown into, we need to avoid a section 114. And Somerset's very proud of the fact that we managed to do that. We managed to steer the ship around and avoid that. But obviously at the time, again, there's one part of me that knew looking for process efficiencies could unlock some, not all, some of the help, but again, the organisation just was not ready for it at that point, because there was kind of much bigger things at play. So what I did then is I thought, right, I'm very keen, clearly, and I've got lots of skills, so where can I get involved to start help turning the tide so that we can get to a point where service design is embedded in the organisation? So at that point, I had a new service director for transformation start, and I was very grateful that she gave me the opportunity to join the programme, the transformation programme at that point for Somerset, as the organisational design and innovation lead. So within that, it was anything to do with DDAP projects and org design, the restructures, all of that sort of stuff. So I helped to deliver the org design principles, service blueprints, which were essentially the kind of V1 new structures for our restructure that happened after vesting day, and also the target operator model, which I'll come on to next. I then worked on the development of a prioritisation approach to address the issue that I think a lot of us have, which is we've got too much to do and not enough resource. What do we focus on? So again, I think you can get the flavour of I had to let go that at the point in time when I felt service design could be really helpful, the organisation just wasn't there. So I looked for areas where I could help with things that will then go on to impact service design. So by April this year, I was then confirmed in post, and since then we've been doing lots and lots and lots. So the target operating model. So this is, like I said, this was delivered pre-April. This was signed off in December of last year. And the reason that this is really relevant is this was us saying, right, if we're redesigning services, what are we actually aiming for? We need a collective goal, a collective vision that details what do we want to be as an organisation, and how do we want it to feel and look like for people to interact with us, for employees. What does that look like? We also wanted to try and address some of the pain points that we might have been feeling, because again, through LGR, you've got all these different organisations coming together. So it's about how do we create that one single vision and start breaking down those silos that just come naturally with what LGR is. So that's why we did it. And our target operating model is not a very detailed, it doesn't lay out structures. It is we call it a compass, not a map. What it lays out is it's something to use for us to challenge ourselves and the way that we work as we are redesigning services and processes, so that we are all aiming in the same direction. It doesn't lay out value streams and structures and how we all work together in that sense. But what's interesting, I think, is how we created it, how we generated it. So it's deliberately non-service specific, so that services can all use it as they wish, and then they can have their own very service specific target operator models as well, as long as it doesn't go a million miles away from the joint organisation one. Now, we created this with subject matter experts, staff, leaders, the executive. We had working groups with service directors. So again, even the titles you can see at the moment, which is the diagram, which is the core of our target operating model, all of that was done with service directors. This is not something that I did in a back room with my service director. We asked others, what do you think needs to go in here? We do not know everything. Together we can design something. So immediately we started with that co-design mentality. So next up, we had staff feedback. So again, we wanted to make sure that everyone understood it. The language, is it, everyone needs to be able to take this and know what it is and what it's for. So we ran lots of staff feedback sessions, and we did that virtually or kind of anonymously where possible, so that people could be really honest about what they liked, what they didn't. We went down to the detail of the colours and anything like that. Throughout this whole journey, I was exercising it regularly at informal executive, so that all of our members were involved as well. They were given the opportunity to feedback to me. I had emails and it was all wonderful, and it was very much a back and forth collaborative growth of the piece. So by the time we actually got to executive and asking for it to be signed off, everyone was well aware of it and sick to death of seeing my face. So it was quite an easy process once we got to that point. And interestingly is that the biggest bit of feedback I get on it still, and at the time from our colleagues and afterwards as well, is that it's not a target operator model. because it isn't in the traditional sense as I described, but for us it's our target that we're aiming for. So again, my kind of reflection there is that I think sometimes in local government we can get hung up on the wrong things that then kind of delays us moving forward. So am I a Tom? Am I a framework? Everyone loves the content and what it is, and they understand how to use it. So that's good enough for us, and so it's something we're really proud of in Somerset. So as I said, the point of our Tom is that we will use it in every change that we will do. We will challenge ourselves and the way that we do things to make sure that we're moving forward to a shared goal and not away from it. So Service Design Companion, this is the process design manual for Somerset. So what I've been doing there is I recognise that we had a way of working that was great in Sedgemoor and it did what we needed it to do. But now I'm in Somerset, it's a new environment, new organisations, I've got new peers, new experiences, new learning. It would be very easy for me to get the process redesign manual and blow the dust off it and say, right, let's go. But it's not the right thing for Somerset. So we are currently reviewing the entire contents, plus looking at creating bite-sized information to go alongside it to make sure that it does work for us. So again, we're looking at what does Somerset need, where are we heading, what's the plan, what's the priorities, and making sure that it makes sense for us. In a district council where I was previously as well, it's very heavily what I would call transactional services, whereas in a larger, more county council, you've got more kind of people and place-based services as well that have a slightly different model. So again, it's just taken into consideration what's the best for our new situation. So some examples already of things that we've changed is project stages and names we've changed, language, making sure that it's as agile as we can be. We've been looking at governance, redesigning versus fundamental reshaping of services requires a slightly different approach. So these are all things that we're considering to make improvements for Somerset. Again, it's a very collaborative approach. So like I said, I didn't want to come in and say, I've got a way that works, guys, just leave me to it. I've been working with subject matter experts in finance. We've got the HDRC team as well, which is the research collaboration team within Somerset. So they've been really helpful at helping me boost the research sections and making sure that it is set up, or each project I should say is set up for a kind of co-design, co-production route from inception. We've also got work from data teams and ICT and digital and many, many more. So we're very much working on it together so that I can make sure that it works for everyone. As I said, we've got limited staff in Somerset, as with most of us, I think. So the goal of this companion is, one, that teams that work with us directly, we will work through it with you, but it's also something that others can pick up and understand what best practices in terms of going about service design themselves. We want to empower the organisation and upskill the organisation as much as we can to do that. So I'm also joining networks and with other organisations as well to share learning, evolve it together. We've had extra training for our business analysts on engaged process, creating internal communities, all of that wonderful stuff, just making sure that we are ready for the influx of need, shall I say, that is already starting to build in Somerset. So moving on to kind of project stages. So what I'm currently getting our comms team to work on like a nice kind of circular flow for me. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here, I'm not going to read through all of it, is that we're going to have a kind of a set way of working with services so that we work through certain stages. So the ones that are on the screen that are starred, what this means is that's a definite project stage, feasibility, and live. They're points in time, or they're very, very quick. So therefore it's not really a big chunky piece of work. But the idea is that for the kind of first sections from feasibility through to live, services that are classed as high priority will be very much supported by my team and others to redesign their services. But whilst we're doing that, we'll also have the goal of upskilling and training, so that if and when, I should say, not if, but when they then go through the continuous improvement loop and go back through afterwards, because obviously we want to make sure we're constantly evolving, constantly keeping up with new trends and ways of working, they can do it themselves. So by the point of live, there are certain aspects that we will support with, but the idea is that the service then owns it. It then becomes part of their business as usual, and making sure that the benefits we've unearthed and delivered are actually realised is the service at that point. So just quickly, I think a lot of you will recognise this. This is the DSDM Alien Baby. So this is the style of working that we use for our service design teams. And this is not the original, you may spot already. So this is something that we created for Sedgemoor. So we took the original DSDM and thought, right, what roles and responsibilities do we need for Sedgemoor? And we are now doing that again for Somerset. So some of you that follow me on LinkedIn already will have seen my recent post, very messy whiteboard, an in-person whiteboard, where I'd got together with a colleague and started drafting out, well, what does that look like now, and how do we make sure that we show that, you know, users could be multiple people, it could be whole communities. So all of this wonderful stuff we're working through. So again, I look at this and I recognise gaps now. So, and again, it doesn't mean to say that we were doing things incorrectly in Sedgemoor. We just didn't have the roles or expertise available. So we made do with what we had, and we did a great job. But now we've got things like a digital inclusion lead. I can have that as a supporting role. We've got transformation business partners. You know, we've got all of this extra wonderful kind of knowledge and expertise that I can bring together differently. But the point of this, and the reason we like it, is because this is all about designing, gathering, mapping together. So it's live, it's in one space. It doesn't matter what service you sit in, it doesn't matter what directorate you're sat in. It is a collaborative approach working across boundaries. So again, I'm trying to demonstrate here that don't be constrained by this is an approach, and flex, find what works for you. What works for Somerset might not work for others. Let's get more flexible in local government. I think that's probably a motto to take away today. So next steps. For me, I need to start socialising the service design companion and make use of innovation spaces. So we've got some cool innovation spaces that we're starting to carve out in Somerset. And we want to start using them more, and but not just for us in the transformation space. We want to invite others in, and we've already got plans coming for promptathons and hackathons and all of this wonderful stuff. We've got some service design principles as well that are in draft, which will again help to make sure that our services and processes are shaped to the same goal. On a page information I mentioned already. So this is about having bite-sized information such as process mapping on a page. What is the minimum requirements we expect from process mapping? Things like that, just to help again with organisational upskilling. Those are the things that are in draft at the moment. Then what I want to do is, again, recreate all of the wonderful stuff I've had in the past. Videos, let's do workshops, let's get the collaboration spaces working for what we need them. I want a really lively hub so that services are excited. This is not about building up dependency on me and my team. If anything, we want to do as much as we can to create that kind of vibe and buzz within the organisation. And the biggest takeaway is just start. I think, again, it's really difficult to do that sometimes. So again, my service design companion, if anyone sees it now, it's covered in highlights and comments and, oh, need to speak to so-and-so. I'm still sharing it with people. It's not perfect, and that's absolutely fine. And I think sometimes we can paralyze ourselves waiting for that perfection. So just start. Get good examples of working with services, because that is what will help get the buy-in. So I don't want to start ramming a way of working down people's throats, because it might not have the response that I want. Whereas if I can say, we've used this response with this service and it's provided them with these benefits, or even better, the service is telling people, I worked with Rachel's team and it was really good and they helped us do XYZ, it's naturally going to get that buy-in. So that's what the plan is. Let's just get on with it, essentially. So the next stage is to create a service design roadmap. What services do we need to work with and when? And what services, on the other hand, might not get our support straight away? So what services do we then need to help with the tools and the guidance and the more light touch so that they can get started, so that they aren't desperately waiting for help? Because they don't need it if we've got the right tools and guidance available for them. I've already said I'm keen to strengthen partnerships with other councils, because I've already spoke to lots of wonderful people recently that are a little bit further along than us, and I'd love to share learning, knowledge, resources, all of that wonderful stuff where we can. I'm also very keen to continue highlighting progress for Somerset, as well as the tools that we use, engage process obviously, and I want to be transparent, not just about successes but challenges and failures, because that is still a bit of a dirty word, and again I think it's the fail fast mentality is something that we need to get better at. So in Somerset as well, not only have we got this kind of bigger service redesign approach, but we are also starting to build something called the Orchard, which is specifically designed for very quick innovations that we can kind of turn around, problem solve, prototype in 6 to 12 weeks. And we've already said the beauty of that is we don't want people to not do something because they're worried it might not work. Let's use the Orchard to figure out, does it work? Or if it doesn't, it's no problem. We'll drop it. We'll move on to the next thing. If it does work, brilliant. We've actually done something and not been paralysed through the fear of it failing. So I just end there. Oh, I love the love hearts and the claps and stuff, guys. It's really helpful for me. Yay. So I just want to end on, before I move on to some kind of honest challenges that we've had, a quote there from our chief exec, Duncan Sharkey. He says, take a step, learn more, take the next step and learn again. So I think that sums that up quite nicely, and that is in our target operating model. So challenges. Again, at Local Gov Camp, we did this as just a way of kind of generating some questions and conversation. So I don't have the answer here. This is just me being honest about things that I've recognised as challenges that we've had in Somerset. But I'm quite a positive person, so I do always say, is it a challenge or is it an opportunity to do things better, or a learning opportunity maybe? But the big thing for all of us, I think, is resources. So we have recently restructured our workforce. We did that first after vesting day. So it does mean that there's a lot of pressure created on our services, and we are often going into services that are already on their knees. So it's really challenging. It's a difficult environment, and obviously to do process redesign and service design well, or at all, you need the subject matter expert. So how do we balance that? Financial crisis hangover. We do have a little bit of it in Somerset, so it's kind of letting that fear away. To be able to be innovative, we need to let us have a look without knowing fully what we're finding. You know, we might not, especially in service design spaces, you're not going to have costed business cases immediately. So how do we balance that innovation with autonomy that we need to actually make the changes, or look for the changes, look for the opportunities? Local government, so I think, again, I'm hoping and assuming this is a shared issue. We've got recruitment difficulties, and I think myself it is due to DDAT skill sets not greatly being recognised at the moment in local government. I know there's lots of work being done to do that, but we do have the battle of kind of private versus public sector salaries and differences there that can be difficult to attract and retain staff, which obviously makes working at pace difficult. I know for me, I've got a very big history of getting in wonderful people, training them up, and then they leave me. So it's a bit challenging with that. New era of process mapping. Which again, obviously I fully support, I'm fully on board with it, but is everyone else around us? So we are battling against a little bit of that as well. not a lot of people, not a lot of the time. We haven't got time for that, you know. So it's kind of challenging that. Well, it is actually going to change, you know, change everything you do, and it is a key to unlocking so much. So it's challenging there. And finally, I think, again, because of that speed and that desperation for improvement, there is a tendency to rush into, we just need the solution without adequate co-design, understanding, is it really what you need, understanding the problem and just doing the discovery piece. We can tend to cut corners there. So that is me. I will send it back.